The world feels like a storm of blurry faces and loud noises. Everyone's eyes are like laser pointers, and they all seem to be aimed right at me. They say to look people in the eye. They say it shows you're listening, that you're confident, that you're normal. But what if normal feels like staring into the sun? It's too much. It's a million little details all at once. The color of their iris, the way their eyelid twitches, the reflection of the room in their pupil. It's so distracting. It's impossible to hear what they're actually saying. The words just turn into a fuzzy hum, like a radio station I can't quite tune in. So I look away, at the floor, at my hands, at the fascinating pattern on the wallpaper. That's where I can think. That's where I can actually listen. My name is John, and my superpower is noticing things other people don't, like the way the light hits a dust mote and makes it sparkle, or the rhythm of the dripping faucet in the science lab. It's like a secret symphony only I can hear. My special interest is astronomy. The stars don't demand eye contact. They just are, big, quiet, and predictable. I can trace their paths across the sky for hours. I know their names, their stories, their distance from us in light years. When I talk about them, the words flow easily. It's like a switch flips in my brain, and everything is clear. One day, I was at my locker, trying to organize my books by color, a system that just makes sense to me. Someone new was at the locker next to mine. I could feel their presence without looking up. I kept my focus on my task. Red book, then blue, then green. The order is important. A voice cut through my concentration. Hey, you're John, right? I'm Barbara. I didn't look up. I just nodded, my hands still on my books. They think I'm being rude. I heard a sigh. I expected her to walk away. Most people do, but she didn't. She just stood there, quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Cool backpack. Is that the Orion constellation?" My head just snapped up. I couldn't help it. My eyes met hers for a split second before darting away to the side of her head. It was like a little shock. That eye contact, but her words were different. She noticed Orion. Nobody ever notices Orion on my backpack. I just managed another nod. My brain was searching for the right words, but they were stuck behind the wall of surprise. She didn't seem to mind the silence. She pointed to a patch on her own bag. I'm more of a planetary geology person. I've got a Mars rover patch. I glanced at it. It was a detailed, embroidered patch of the Perseverance rover. It was perfect. Perseverance, I said, the word finally escaping. It landed in the Jezero crater. Barbara's face lit up. Yeah, exactly. Most people just think it's a weird robot. For the first time, I felt a connection that didn't require me to stare into someone's soul. We stood there for a few minutes, not looking at each other, but at our backpacks, talking about space. She talked about rock formations on Mars, and I talked about the life cycle of a star. The bell for class rang, a jarring sound that broke our little bubble. As she left, she said, "See you around, John." And I think, for the first time, I actually wanted to. The next few weeks, Barbara and I started eating lunch together, not at the loud, crowded tables in the middle of the cafeteria. We found a quiet bench by the library window. We didn't always talk. Sometimes we'd just sit, me sketching star charts in my notebook, her reading a book about volcanoes. The silence wasn't awkward. It was comfortable. She understood that I needed space, that I wasn't being unfriendly when I stared at my shoes while she talked. She learned to read me in other ways. She noticed when I started tapping my fingers on the table faster and faster, getting a little loud in here. "Huh?" She'd ask gently, and I would just nod, relieved that someone finally got it without me having to explain the buzzing in my head. One day in history class, we had to do group presentations. My heart sank. Presentations meant standing in front of everyone. It meant all those eyes, all at once. The teacher, Mr. Harrison, put me in a group with Barbara and two other kids, Jake and Sarah. Jake immediately took charge. "Okay, so I'll do the intro. Sarah, you can do the middle part. And John, you can do the conclusion." He looked at me, waiting. That expectant stare. It felt like pressure, a weight on my chest. I couldn't get a word out. I just stared at the desk. I heard Sarah whisper to Jake, "Is he always like this? He's so weird." The word weird echoed in my head. It was a word I'd heard my whole life. It used to feel like a brand, a mark that set me apart in a bad way. I felt that familiar urge to just disappear, to pull my hoodie over my head and block out the world. But then, Barbara spoke up. "Actually," she said, her voice clear and firm, "John knows more about ancient navigation than anyone. He could do the part about how ancient civilizations use the stars to travel. It's the most interesting part." Jake looked skeptical. "How do you know?" Barbara just smiled. "Because we talk. You just have to listen differently." She turned to me, but she didn't look at my face. She looked at my notebook, which was open to a drawing of the Ptolemaic model of the universe. "Right, John?" she asked. And looking at my own drawing, my own world, I found my voice. Yes, I said. The Polynesians use star compasses. Jake and Sarah were surprised, but as I started explaining, pulling facts from my memory, they started to listen. I didn't look at them. I looked at the whiteboard, drawing the constellations as I talked. I showed them how Orion's belt points to Sirius and Aldebaran. The words just flowed. My passion was my shield and my sword. For the presentation, Barbara had a brilliant idea. We decided I wouldn't stand at the front. Instead, we projected my notebook onto the screen. I sat at my desk with a microphone and talked everyone through my drawings of star charts and ancient ships. I explained how the Vikings used sunstones and how sailors found their latitude using the North Star. I was just talking about what I loved. My voice was steady. I didn't have to see a single pair of eyes. I could just focus on the stars. When I finished, the room was quiet for a second. Then, someone started clapping. Then another person. Soon, the whole class was applauding. Mr. Harrison was smiling. That was one of the most fascinating presentations I've seen in years. John, outstanding. After class, Jake came up to me. Dude, that was awesome. I had no idea. Sorry if I was a jerk before. He didn't try to make me look at him. He just gave me a quick, friendly nod and walked away. It was a small thing, but it felt huge. That day, I learned something important. People might not understand my world at first. They might see my downcast eyes and think I'm not interested, not smart, or not there. But that's not the whole story. Barbara showed me that. She didn't try to fix me or force me to be normal. She met me where I was. She listened to my silence and found the words I couldn't say. She saw my passion, not my quirks. And because of her, others did too. Eye contact isn't everything. Sometimes, real connection happens when you're both looking in the same direction, up at the same stars. It's about seeing the person, not just their eyes. My world is still loud sometimes, and hallways are still chaotic. But now, it feels a little less lonely. I have a friend who speaks my language, a language of quiet understanding and shared wonder. And that's better than looking someone in the eye any day. Thank you for watching.